Alright gang, and welcome to this week's tutorial. My name is Jeremy Hazel from 7th Season Studios, and this is a very exciting tutorial because this image actually comes from one of our students in the Affinity Designer course, the Complete Guide to Affinity Designer. Jaya Kumaran created this as part of the coursework when he went through and took this class, and he gave me permission to go through and reverse engineer it for you guys and show you how he actually did it. So this is exciting for me, and it kind of comes full circle because it's one of my students that actually created this, and now we're using it to kind of teach the rest of the world. Alright, so what we're going to be doing in today's lecture is show you how to create this, but more importantly, I want to show you how to reverse engineer. So the very first thing I do when I reverse engineer is I come over here to my layers panel, and I get to know the image. So I start looking at the image. We've got a rectangle, so the rectangle's good. We got a pixel layer. Alright, now if I don't know what the pixel layer is, turn it off and turn it back on and see what disappears. Alright, now I know what the pixel layer is. We've got a layer that's the whale here. So let's take a look at this layer. It looks like the whale has curves. Now, what are those curves, right? Let's grab our tool, and then let's take a look at where these curves exist. You see how they begin lighting up? Okay, so that's the eye. That's part of that underbelly there. Got the underbelly here, okay. And then, what are these? Ah, these are the shade layers, okay. So if I reverse engineer this thing by layers, there's a base layer for the whale, which has the shaded layers drawn inside, okay. And then it's got a bunch of layers on top of that that he used to apply to the eyes, the underbelly, and the lines down here. All right, fair enough. Then we've got the hearts. The hearts have a shade layer, all right, which he used curves, so it's vector art on vector art. In the course, we teach that for the paste inside way of shading. And the curve, same way. All right, now let's say that I couldn't quite figure that out. Let me show you guys a hint. You go to View, go to View Mode, and click on Outline. Now I see all the shade layers that he put in the heart. So there's the outline for the shade layer for the heart. There's the shade layer for the fin. All right. So I think we're in good shape to get back to regular view, view mode, vector. All right. Now the last thing that I'm going to need, let's go to File. Let's go through and look at the document setup and go 1080 by 1080 and 72. All right. Good deal. Let's go to File, New, and let's create a 1080 by 1080. Now, I'm going to do 300 dpi because I might want to print this someday. And hit OK. Cool. We now have our appropriately sized image. Now, what I've done for you guys in the downloads, you have his work file. And I created a palette, a document palette, off from his actual colors. So you have those exact colors in your document panel. Now, I might deviate a little bit from it, but when you are retrofitting a piece, always grab the whale panel, go over here, and always export the palette, because then you can work in the exact same color palette. So, over in mine here, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go Import Palette, as a document palette, and I'm going to import the whale palette. Cool, now I've got the same colors. So I've got the same colors, I've got the same size. Let's get down to business. Let's begin by pulling a rectangle. You see snapping is on. And let's fill the rectangle with this sort of aquamarine seafoam green color. All right, fair enough. Now, usually I don't do this, but because I don't have the pixel image, I'm going to have to copy his texture. So you go over to the existing image, copy, come over to your untitled, and paste. All right, usually I don't do that, but because I don't have the pixel image to pull it in, I wanted to stay as true to his original work as possible. All right, so we've got a rectangle and we've got the pixel image. Now notice the opacity at 61%, the blend mode is normal. You could adjust the blend mode of this a ton of different ways, right? Depending on what you wanted to do. We're going to keep it as normal. And now what we're going to do, we're going to trace the whale. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back over to his original image. I'm going to pull in just slightly, and now you could copy everything over. but we don't copy, all right? So let's go to adding a layer, okay? Now, this is going to be called layer 2. I'm just putting it at the top. I grab my pen tool, and now I start penning out the whale. Now, you'll see that if you took the course, you'll notice that I do just a lot of my work just like this. And I'm just hitting on here because what's step 1 always, right? Just rough out the shape. All right, so we have the box. Perfect. Now, I start here at the point. I click and drag with my node tool. And if you're lost on this, in the course, we talk about a 4-step process for lining. The first step is just get some anchor points down. The second one is adjust the node type and the node amount. So you see that's a square node. I come up here and I adjust the type of node. Here's a square node. I adjust the type of node. And then I start moving them out into the right position using the handles. Now, this is a great way to get to learn how to line, right? Is copy somebody else's line art and see if you can replicate it. All right, so you see I'm moving the handles out until I get the line pretty close to where I want it. That's a hard curve, so I'm good there. I drag in the middle. I drag in the middle. I drag this line out. I drag this line out. Dragging out the lines, folks. And again, I'm staying pretty true to his original intent. Coming over here, gonna make that fin just a little bit more roundish. And then I come over here to kind of round out my whale. All right, and I got that line there. Perfect. So I adjusted the node type. You see I had a node here and a node here that I had to make round. Other than that, I didn't really mess with the nodes at all. All right, now once you do this, you're going to right click on the layer and you're going to cut the layer out. You're going to come over to your existing image and we're going to paste it inside our image. So you see layer 2 has now moved into our image. And now we have to fill it. This is where the document palette comes in. So you imported the document palette already. I click on fill and I fill it now with that blue. Perfect. Now I'm going to resize this whale a little bit. I'm going to come up to my move tool. I'm going to click on my layer. I'm going to move my whale around just slightly. All right. So I think it fills the canvas pretty nice right there. All right. Now, let's go back to his original image. He's got this white underbelly. Now, when he did it, he went in and used a curve, which you absolutely could do. I'm going to show you a different way, though. I'm just going to grab a circle. I'm going to pull the circle. I'm going to fill it with white. And then I'm going to come over here to my layer. And I'm going to nest it down inside the curve. So I've got my curve and I've got it nested. Now, with my move tool selected, I'm just going to adjust the size there until it kind of matches what I think it should match and look like. All right, cool. All right, think I'm pretty good there on the underbelly of this thing. So now we have to get the lines in on the underbelly. So we're going to now go to our ellipse layer, which is nested inside the curve. We're going to grab our pen tool, and we're going to create a line. Now, the curvature of the line is going to tell the curvature of the piece. So once we've done that now, we have to now up the stroke. Let's see what he's done here. Now, you see how I'm exceeding this? Take the curve, nest it inside the ellipse layer. Now your curve is down inside your ellipse, and if you wanted to adjust the curve, now all you got to do is click and drag on the ends and you can up the curvature on the underbelly. Now how many of these do I have to do? Well, let's take a look at his original. Looks like 5. Okay, Back here, looks like 5. Now, how do we do this? Hold Alt. Well, let's grab our move tool. Hold Alt, click and drag. Release Alt, hold Alt, click and drag. Come back over here, release Alt, hold Alt, click and drag. And lastly, release Alt, hold Alt, click and drag. Okay, now we've got to space them out a little bit differently. We've got to do some work here. So let's grab one of these. Which one is it? All right. Let's grab that one, scoot that one out a little bit farther this way, scoot that one that way. All right, good deal. So underbelly, pretty much done. Let's do an eye. Now he's got 2 eyes and they're thicker than the other lines. So I draw a straight line. And now I turn up my stroke on that eye. And I grab, well, where is the eye? Ah, that's why it's not working. All right, we go up to the top layer here. Whoa, that's a lot of stroke. All right, so we grab the eye. Let's make it, yeah, we'll make it 5. Fair enough. And now I grab my node tool and I adjust the curvature until I like it. Now I'm going to make an adjustment to the eye. I'm going to go ahead and create a little dot. There we go. And then let's go create one more little dot. And let's fill it with white. And now we can't hardly see that, so let's go ahead and zoom that up there. Grab our tool, grab that. Now, why do we have that? We have a stroke problem. There we go. Hold Shift. All right, and now let's zoom on out of here. And let's put all those together in a layer. Group, and we'll call it the eye. Okay, now let's duplicate the group. And now let's go ahead and move that group. Let's flip it. All right, so after taking a look at that, I don't like the eyeball. So let's go ahead and delete those 2 eyeballs out of the group. Sometimes you do stuff and it doesn't work out, folks. Try it, and that's the nice thing about digital art. You're not married to it. All right, I'm much happier with that. All right, let's go ahead and move those down into more of a position there. All right, let's see how we're doing in relationship to his original there. Pretty good. I think he's got the eyes spaced a little bit further out, so let's go ahead and do that. Oops. Okay. All right, cool. So let's go ahead now and let's do the hearts. Now, in order to do the hearts, you could create a curve. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the heart tool because I'm going to be super lazy today. Okay, and the heart tool, we're going to fill it. Let's go here. And then how does he have them turned? All right, up and then down, okay? And he's modified the size of them, so that'll work. All right, let's go here. Let's put this one here and tilt it just a little bit. And now let's go ahead and Control J to duplicate. And then let's go ahead and flip it, and let's go ahead and shrink it. All right, perfect. Now, the last thing we're going to do, let's go ahead and grab these spouts that he's got going on here. The spouts, we're going to go through, we're going to go like this. And now let's see how much curvature he has on them. Got a little bit of curvature on it, okay, and it's going from the outside in, okay, fair enough. So we're going to go ahead and turn this guy just like so. And now we're going to go ahead and let's grab that color for the water. Okay, now what we've got here, I want to put a little bit of curvature in here, so I'm going to take this shape and I'm going to convert it to a curve. And now that I have, now I can use my node tool in order to move this just ever so slightly up, just like that. All right. Now, let's take a look at what we got here. He did it a little bit more white. All right, so let's go. We don't quite have the perfect match on that yet. Okay, so we're going to go through and we're going to then Control J to duplicate. Then we're going to flip it. And then with our Move tool selected, we're going to shrink it down a little bit. All right. Good deal. Let's see where we're at. Pretty close. Now, what I don't like about this, at least on mine, I think that we're a little bit too gray on the color match for this. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to select my curve. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to change that just ever so slightly there. All right. Much happier with that. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and we're going to lock some stuff. We're going to lock the eye layers because I don't want to mess with those. And now we've got to figure out on the heart layers, we're going to add a pixel. So let's check our time here. All right, so we're going to add a pixel layer, nest it inside the heart. Now, he used a vector layer. I'm going to go ahead and add a pixel layer, and I'm going into my pixel persona. I'm going to grab my brush. I'm going to pick a very soft brush. Let's go with something in the spray paint realm here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ratchet down my brush size, make sure I'm on my pixel layer. And then I'm going to come into my swatches. I'm going to grab something that's a little bit darker. And now I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to start painting. Now, what am I doing here, folks? Now, you see how dark that is to begin with? Here's the trick. We're going to come to this pixel layer and I'm going to change it to a multiply layer, and I'm going to drop the opacity of the layer down to about 50%. Okay. Oh, I went too far back on that. Multiply. All right, perfect. And now, I'm just working kind of at the curvature of the heart here. And you see how I'm kind of stroking that to get some curvature in this heart. Okay, cool. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to do the same thing with this heart. We come up here, add a pixel layer, nest the pixel layer inside the other heart. Make sure I'm on the pixel layer. And now I'm going to use raster. Let's turn the curvature down before it gets too crazy here. We'll turn the opacity down and we'll turn on the multiply layer. See how I'm using this actual technique? Now I'm going to ratchet my brush down a lot more. Okay, to get the hearts a little bit more curvature. Perfect. Now the same technique for the curve here. Add a pixel layer, nest the pixel layer, make sure you selected the pixel layer, and now I'm going to grab this blue color that he's got. I'm going to keep the brush the same. I'm going to turn down the opacity of the layer. And I'm going to this time put it down to multiply. Yep. And I'm going to shade out my shape. All right, looks good. We're going to do the same thing now to this curve layer. What's the process, folks? Add a pixel layer, nest the pixel layer, select the pixel layer, turn it down in opacity, and change the process to multiply. Change the blend mode to multiply. Yep. And now we're just going to go nice and easy lemon squeezy right into there. All right, perfect. Let's sneak a peek at what that's looking like. All right, looks good. Now the last thing we got to do the whale. Now let's take a look at how he did it. Got the outside of the fins, you got the underside here, and then we did some shading there. Okay, fair enough. Let's do this. All right, again, folks, same exact process. So let's do this. Go into the curve, and now I'm going to click on the curve. I'm going to add a pixel layer. I'm going to drag it inside the curve, and now I'm on the pixel layer. I drop the opacity down. I change the blend mode to multiply. And now I'm going to choose a black, but I want it to be pretty subtle. So let's go ahead and not do a straight black. Let's go ahead and change it to like a dark gray, perhaps. And now I want the brush pretty big at this point, right? Because I don't want a very hard line on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and drop our brush down a little bit. And now, we're making sure we're on this pixel layer here. Okay, we're going to want to probably turn that up a little bit more. You see how we're getting some movement. But we're going to want a little bit more on the gray. So let's go ahead and drop a little bit more black down into our mix here. There we go. Okay. Now, you see we oversprayed here on the tail? That's fine. We grab our eraser. Just erase our mistake out. Okay, so we come back to here. We ratchet down our brush. Now we hit the underside of the tail. Now we hit this end of the tail right through there. Gonna hit on that end of the fin, that end of the fin. And now what I'm going to do here, just to add a little bit of blue to get it somewhat cohesive, let's go ahead and just see what we can do with some of this blue here. Now remember, our blend mode is set to multiply. I'm going to ratchet up the brush a little bit. And I'm going to try this. I don't know how this is going to work, but it's worth a shot. Okay, you see how I apply a little bit of dark blue around that area. Add a little bit of unity to color. All right, the last thing that I want to do probably here, folks, I'm going to go ahead and minimize my brush size. I'm I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to use the gray that he's got in this palette right here. Let's use this bluish gray that's kind of in this palette. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and remove a little bit. Just shade that out just a little bit, just to give it some essence. All right. Give it a little bit of texture. All right, folks. So very similar. That's a little bit on how I reverse engineer some of this stuff. So I hope you got some techniques in there. And what you find is that it's very few techniques that you're going to use that will help you along your way. Most of it that we did was add in some shapes, join some shapes, draw some lines, and then use the pixel persona in order to shade out this particular item. All right, folks, that's a little bit from me, Jeremy Hazel from 7th Season Studios. Again, thank you so much for my student, Jay Akumaran, for allowing us to go ahead and do this. All right, folks, we'll see you in the next lessons. Have a good weekend.